Welcome everyone back to the Storytellers Podcast. I'm sitting in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in a beautiful, is it August day already?
August, yes.
Yes, with Milana Stile. She has her
Hello.
own jewelry company, and she's well traveled, and we're going to dig into all kinds of good stuff. So first thing is, you want to hold it up.
I'm right here.
There she is.
I'm right
Yes.
here. Hello, everyone.
And I'm just loving the lighting.
The lighting is
The
great.
lighting is awesome because we're recording this on my phone as well. So
This is great. I just have to say I'm super excited to be on your podcast.
well,
And-
I'm
and
happy to have you over here, or I mean, I'm a guest in this case, but on the podcast.
Yes.
I love doing this stuff. It's a nice little breeze out here. There's no
No, it's
humidity,
perfect.
so we're gonna kind of just cover all kinds of good stuff.
Sounds
I
good.
don't really know where to start, but I know you came over from the Ukraine. It's like, I'm trying to figure out where do I want to go with this. Let's just start with a little bit of your background, and we'll kind of we'll move over into your jewelry business. I mean, we'll talk about fashion, maybe even lattes, that kind of, or travel.
Lattes.
We're going to cover all kinds of good stuff, but I'm really curious on all the pieces of your life and how that's come into your business in the creative pieces, the travel, adventure.
Sure. So first off, a little cultural lesson. Drop the before Ukraine. I know because it's changed. It's changed. I mean, it's been 25 years since it's changed, but nonetheless.
Okay, lesson learned. All right, welcome. That's awesome.
Anyway, so it's Ukraine. So,
Ukraine.
Yeah. So I grew up in Ukraine and came over to the United States when I was 20. So literally my childhood and early youth was spent in my country. And I was born in Kiev, which is the capital.
Yep.
But I also spent...
Of Ukraine.
See? Perfect.
I catch on quick.
You catch on. And then, so my dad's part of the family is from Transcarpathia region, which is mountains to the west, on the western side of the country. And, talking about inspirations and motivations and things like that, that area has always been very inspirational for me because it was so different from the capital, so different from Kiev. It was, in that area...
It's not a large country, really, from what I know.
No, it's not. It's like the size of, I think, Texas or France.
Yeah.
It's that big or small or that size. But the area where I spent my childhood and that's kind of where it's very multicultural.
Yeah.
So during certain times in history. Oh yeah, please. So during a certain time in history, it actually was part of Austro-Hungarian Empire. So it has a lot of different nationalities living there, like Ukrainians and Hungarians and Slovak, and so that multiculturalism actually was amazing to grow up around because you start to appreciate
something we miss here in the U.S.
Yes, and you started to appreciate other cultures, other languages. Some friends of mine, you go there and everybody speaks Hungarian. It's like, and even if you don't understand everything, I'm not believing.
Well, how many languages do you speak at this point?
Well, at this point, I speak Ukrainian, Russian, English. I have working knowledge of Spanish, but I'm also deep in studying Italian.
I speak English good stuff.
Okay, well, that's good.
I try. We'll stick with the first one, and then that's another thing that I always want to learn new things and take on a new project. Languages are one of them, but I've never really been able to dive into learning a new language beyond Spanish in high school, which was minimal. But
right.
At least I can understand how to get to the bathroom when I go out of the country.
Definitely widens your horizons.
Yes. So I interrupted you on the language thing, but you were saying the different cultures and the variety.
Right. So that kind of creates an environment in which you just become creative, I guess. Because there's so many different customs, and food and stories and family stories. So I always appreciate that. I mean, I'm actually feel like I was really lucky to be able to also grow up there, even though I lived in Kiev and went to school in Kiev.
It was super safe and everything, right? Because long time ago, some of those countries, like probably further away. We're up and down as far as safety goes.
Right.
Because I just did an interview. We'll see it on the podcast.
Uh-huh.
Coming up here soon. But guy from Somalia.
Oh, sure.
All this really challenging upbringing.
Right.
But you didn't have to endure any of that.
No.
You just said the changes of culture, being able to embrace some of that versus everything's the same.
Well,
That's
absolutely.
what I'm used to.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you do realize that, basically throughout my entire childhood, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, so we did have the Soviet system, but it wasn't violent. No, I mean, it was
just
stagnant.
more locked down.
It was kind of stagnant, and in many ways, and but it wasn't anything terrible or bad or whatnot. It just kind of gave you. Now that I'm an adult, I there's lessons learned from living through a totalitarian state like that.
But then that's all you knew when you were growing up.
Absolutely.
So you had nothing to compare it to.
Well, I had nothing to compare it to then, but like now, like as an adult, you can see certain tendencies, for example,
right.
Political tendencies, whatever. I mean, that helps you it gives you a different perspective on life
because I know when I was growing up, that's all I knew.
Right.
And I thought everyone was doing the same thing as me.
Right.
And even then, as I came out of different environments as I was getting to be an adult, I saw different things, not to different crazy extents, until I started to travel a little bit more too, see other countries and cultures. That's what I love so much, is being able to experience new things like that.
Absolutely. I love traveling.
Oh, it's awesome.
Not that I can. Oh, well, I usually can't. But,
but as we're recording this, we're still somewhat locked down, I guess.
Yeah.
But
that actually brings a little bit of PTSD from the childhood of not being able to go places.
Well, and you're similar to me, where you need to get out and explore.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're both going a little crazy. At least we can do things like this.
Yes, right.
Speaking of your wardrobe,
yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
So this is like one of my favorite finds that I got last summer from Via's Vintage. I want to do a shout out to Via's Vintage.
Nice.
It's a vintage shop in Uptown, and this actually is a vintage Chinese robe from 1950s, and
That's awesome.
I just adore it. Of course I wear it as a throw. Not as a dress. I think it was meant more like a dress, but it's silk and it's just so nice.
Well, and then you have
colorful.
You have the necklace.
Yes.
And there's a story there, I'm sure.
So this necklace is actually part of Milana Stile design, and this is a new collection that just came in about 2 months ago. So I wanted to create a collection with leather and crystals. This is amethyst, by the way. This.
Super cool.
Yeah, and one of my girlfriends said we were doing a photo shoot and I had her wear one of the pieces, and she's like, Milana, you're like the only person who can make me wear a dog collar. And I was just like, it's not a dog collar.
There's so many things right there I'd like to get into as well. We'll wait on that a little bit.
But anyways, so
just the whole pieces of like owning fashion and owning something, because not everyone can just wear that.
No, I know.
And that's a
right.
common, I'm probably
it is
getting
a common thing.
Ahead of myself.
But I just wanted to also mention that, yes, I designed this, but it's all made in Italy. So it's made in Arezzo by artist in Creative, and so I want to acknowledge that they're amazing. They're amazing artisans, and I'm super happy to be working with them.
Well, here's a question: have you always been very creative or artistic and really appreciating good art? And
yes.
Because for me, there's a story. This is the whole concept of this love, the idea of stories and everything, from fashion to jewelry and all. There's always a lot more depth to it rather than just a bracelet or something you wear.
Well, I grew up actually surrounded by people of the art world, mainly music. And
And music is another one where you hear a song and all of a sudden you know
but
where you were and what you're doing, and creates a feeling.
Absolutely, but musicians, my parents always had this group of friends that, when they come over to the house, and we would have like somebody performing on a piano, like this amazing improvisation and things like that. And they knew artists, and so even though my mom's a doctor, my dad's a professor, but like we were surrounded by people from the art world, quite a bit, and so that's the environment I grew up in. My mother also had a hobby of sewing, so she made always these amazing outfits for me. So watching her doing the creative process, also imprinted on me. And but what really impressed me about fashion, I want to talk about that. Again, 70s Soviet Union, you don't get a subscription, to a bazaar or Vogue, but my mother, in college, in the university, she met this woman from Canada, and this woman came to visit a couple of times, and she brought issues of Bazaar and Vogue, so we had them in the house. And I remember looking at these magazines.
Because you couldn't even have that.
No, you couldn't even buy that or subscribe or anything. So these magazines, I remember looking at them as a kid, and the photography, was amazing. I've never seen anything like this in my life, and that just, I think, impressed me quite a bit towards fashion, and fashion being an artistic expression.
Well, really, from what I'm hearing too, is that you were secluded a little bit.
Yes.
Or a lot, but then something small, even if you ever given up sugar and then you have a piece of fruit, you're like, oh, it's so awesome.
Oh, right.
Type of thing where,
right.
Because if you don't have, if you're not exposed to fashion or some of that, and then all of a sudden you see something like great photography, you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
So all of a sudden the juices are flowing, you're like, I don't even know where to start. So
yeah, yes.
So did you start dressing,
well,
experimenting with different styles and all that sort of thing?
I did. So my mom tried to teach me how to sew, but that was a complete fiasco.
I was just talking to my mom today. Fiasco. I'm like, I have a button that came off. I'm going to wait to see you. That's my sewing.
Yeah, I can do a button, but that whole pattern thing, and that this was not for me. But I've always been very much fascinated by jewelry. And so my mother had this jewelry box, and as soon as she would go to work, believe me, I was pulling it off the shelves and taking everything out and playing with it. And she also had another box where there were random pieces of jewelry, like broken jewelry. So I tried to create something from that. And so I've always had that fascination with, and that's where my creativity was happening in terms of personal adornment and personal, I'd make something for myself, or I would combine different jewelry, that's the type of thing.
Isn't it a whole different feeling, if you create something and you wear it versus picking it off the shelf?
Right, yeah.
Because someone else created it, or...
Yeah, exactly.
Because even in my house, as I moved into this newer house a few years ago, I didn't want to put anything on the wall unless I had a part in the creativity. If I took the picture, or...
Yeah.
I have a few exceptions, but I think there's a lot more story to. There's a lot more of a, a fashion sense or a style to your home or wherever, your car or whatever you're wearing, if you have a little bit more say in it.
Oh, for sure. And it's not just making things. I mean, you can still have a lot of say even if you create somebody else's
put
work.
Things together.
Yeah, but the way you put it together is yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot of arguments there where even though what I have on now, someone else could wear it. Maybe in a different way.
Well, for sure.
Or, and it'll be a totally different spin.
Yeah.
You remember we were doing a project recently over in the studio, and the conversation came up about just owning it. And as far as fashion goes, and in the jewelry business, you work with a lot of women, or mostly women clients. And a lot of times they're like, well, I can't wear that.
Yeah.
And we had that whole conversation, and I just think it's so interesting because people can't, we're all different, and we all feel comfortable. Or I think the key is stretching that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Not just going with the status quo, because everyone can wear the same thing.
Yeah, no,
That's
we don't want everybody to wear it.
We might as well wear uniforms.
It's boring, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think when we talked last time, I was just telling you how when I started my business and I started when I started my business, I only curated. I didn't design.
What's
yet.
the curation process? Is it long, lengthy, or?
No, curation process is basically I started going to trade shows and meeting different jewelry designers and looking at their work, and then just started to create collections from what I liked. So I wouldn't necessarily carry somebody's line or wrap somebody. I wanted to create a collection of different pieces, because that's how I do. It's like how creating your own closet. So I wanted to create that as a studio where my clients can come and experience that, what's behind a collection. But when I started and I started bringing this amazing jewelry, a lot of times women would be like, "Oh my God, this is so great! Looks amazing on you. You can pull it off. Oh, I can't." And that's something that I made it my focus. Like, I want to change that perception because anybody can wear, anybody can express. And you shouldn't just say because something is big or too many stones,
right.
or too artistic or too understated. You can play with it, like explore it.
Would you get the same resistance, I'll call it, from women that were powerful or shy, or it depends on their personality or their background? Like if they were powerful with business and like everything, go-getter type A, I mean, they're still like, oh, I couldn't wear it, or to be...
Well, it's funny, actually. I had some clients. It's a little bit of both, and I had some clients who started that way, like, oh, and like one of my clients told me after 2 times she visited my studio, she said, "Oh my God, all I can think about is going back there and like going through the shelves and like buying." And then she said, I was never a ring person, and now all I want to do is wear rings. So to me, that's a success story because that's something that clearly she had inside of her, but just was never able to come out. And that's just that creativity we all have.
Well, I've explored with just my own like style and all these other things internally over the course of many years, and I think there's that fine line between, is this really who I was when I was younger, and I'm just letting that person come out more,
right?
Or am I creating something like new, a new version of myself?
Well, right, because we go through stages in life, right, and we reflect that in our appearance. But nothing wrong with tapping into I think how we were growing up is who we are now. I mean, we are that today. We just are more sophisticated, but the spirit.
Exactly. With just different colored pants or
whatever. Well, maybe we don't stay up till 4 a.m. I don't know about you.
That's my teenage daughter, my youngest one for sure. 4 a.m. to like 2 p.m.
That's
summer hours. I think.
Great.
No, but as far as like even these white pants, we're in Minneapolis and we're pretty conservative here.
That's true.
So I was going to Miami a couple years ago with some friends.
Yeah.
We were going to Miami Beach.
Yeah.
And that's when I bought them, and like I wanted to like try to fit. And here, it's almost a little teetering as far as who can wear it, who can't.
Yeah.
Like the season and the guy and all that. But there, we were in South Beach, and I was walking through this like, Fontainebleau hotel or something. And I could have been the wallflower. I mean, there were so many other like craziness things going on, and I'm and then I come back here, and
Miami Beach
because initially I'm like, I don't know if I can pull it off here.
You're right.
And I wore it there, and then when I came back, I'm like, I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna wear it
wherever
I want.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we don't have to be restricted by our environment because they're not in conformity with who we are.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's their problem. Welcome to the bees. Right? Hopefully it wasn't a bee. I got stung recently.
I know, and I'm remembering that.
I'm going to be okay. We don't need to stop the podcast or anything here. But
so that's what I mean. Like, I mean, believe me, I don't see many people wearing this here.
Right.
But that's just. I mean, I go to a grocery store like that. Actually, I have so many compliments on this thing. It's funny.
Well, isn't it typical? Like, usually it's a couple of things. A little surprise. Then also they look again. Oh, that's actually kind of cool. And then it's almost, I wish, she's awesome because she can do it. I wish I could get to that point.
Right.
That's the thinking all the time.
Yeah, well, and I've seen people that I was inspired like that by, that like you want to not emulate somebody's style, but you want to be inspired to be creative like that and not hold back.
How much is part of that with the jewelry business that you're doing is just well beyond the creative process of creating this, putting these pieces together? How much is actually working with women to feel comfortable in exploring their style more?
Yeah, and that's why so I've had my business for 10 years, and I've gone through various stages of how I was doing my business. I've been in stores, I've done trunk shows. But I came to a conclusion that the best way to achieve what I want to achieve with my clients is to have that in-studio experience, because that's what women feel completely at ease. They can try on anything. Everything's there. They don't have nobody's
touch and feel it.
Nobody's hovering over them like, how can I help you? You know what I mean? I'm there, but so that's what I'm trying to foster. I kind of forgot what you were asking me. Oh, how I do my business. So
well, I'm just more curious on how much of the focus, even in technology.
Yeah.
A lot of times the real issue isn't the technical pieces; it's the people.
Absolutely.
Like when there's a problem that comes up, well, all I have to do is turn the switch, but no one knows what the switch is, or who has a password, or so and so's over here. No, there's drama with them because they're not.
Yeah.
All those other components usually go into it, but because jewelry is jewelry or fashion, but there's so many other layers that go into it.
Well, absolutely, there are a lot of layers, but ultimately, you're right. It's about people, and when I see women wear my jewelry, it makes me very happy. Because I want my clients to come to my studio, be inspired, and buy something they absolutely love, and that's what it matters to me, because then it's worth it. Then it's it just transported the idea outward. Why have what's a jewelry if it's laying in the box? You know what I mean?
I love it so much, but I just can't see myself wearing it.
Right.
I liked it at the time.
Yeah. So no, that's a lot of fun, and also another side of my business is actually working with artists. I mean, that's the
and we did that project the other day was in the art studio.
No, I mean the artists who create the jewelry.
Oh, yeah. I'm talking about painting artists.
Yeah.
You're talking about the other type of artists.
Yeah, so, if we're talking about the
artistic
the business of
talent.
Jewelry, yes. So we have people on a client side, right? But then there's this whole different human experience on the creativity side, because I already told you, I don't personally make the jewelry, right? So I either curate, or if I design, I have it made in Europe. So I've developed.
But you do design some of it, handwritten kind of idea type of thing, or explain it, and then they.
Yeah, I've done from sketches to, and actually what yes, we talk on FaceTime, but I actually visit the studio, the workshop,
right?
And then we get together with the artist and we go through the sketches. Sometimes they already started working on something, and then we tweak it, So there's a lot of that face-to-face interaction, because again, so if I design, it's I have an idea. I can barely draw.
I can draw a stick person.
but I can see things. You know what I'm saying? I have a vision of what it would be like. And so to me that's one of my favorite parts, actually, to working with the artists and finding artists and having these relationships. And it's just amazing to see how people create, and there's a lot of work behind it. It's all done by hand. So I don't work with I only work with artists that are small, handmade. Most of them are family owned. So your jewelry comes from loving hands. That's super important.
I love that point, because we're so used to everything in high volume.
Yep.
Everything's cheap, fast, and I think we're losing that
connection,
that extra piece of manual and extra touch of love. Because even if you go back to the food piece over Italy as an example, is they spend a lot of time on meals and just making food from scratch and putting some time into it, having the family around and having these conversations, where I think we're missing so much of that here. From my perspective, I'd like to incorporate that more into my lifestyle, because
you're doing it. You're doing these podcasts. Yeah, you're creating that.
But this conversation is just so. I think we're getting so lost in the fast-paced everything now.
Yeah.
That I think at some point we should. This is what I try to do: is just stop, just listen to their surroundings, and pay more attention to small things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that's that small creative process, and it doesn't have to be in mass quantities.
No,
I need 10,000 of these. How about 10 or 5?
Right, or 1.
or 1. Or 1. But back to the food piece,
Yeah.
You had some of that kind of as you're growing up a little bit too. I know you mentioned
yeah. So
before we started recording, like even some of your grandma has famous recipes.
Yes.
I mean, does it bring back a lot of memories?
Yes, it does. So I'm so lucky because my grandmother handwritten a book of recipes for me, and it's mostly pastries. Because
is it like handwritten, like index cards, or
no? It's a book, like not a book. Like what do you call it?
Cookbook.
Well, like a journal, like
a journal. Yes.
Like that kind of.
Just handwritten, though.
Yeah,
right?
It's handwritten. It's handwritten.
Not mass produced.
Not mass produced. Handwritten.
That's
and
awesome.
It's only pastries because she was an amazing cook to begin with, but she was really amazing baker. And of course, growing up, like
usually you're one or the other, either bake
pastries.
or you cook.
No, she was both. She was just so good.
She's a keeper.
Oh, for sure. She actually, if we're talking about another things that inspire you or impress you growing up, like my grandmother's house was impeccable. Like she had such good taste. Like there were always flowers, like fresh cut flowers. Well, I mean, it helped that she had a garden around, but fresh cut flowers. Everything was just perfect. Like breakfast, like we'd get up for breakfast on a regular day. Table was set with a tablecloth, with placemats.
Those are the things I think we're starting to really miss out on now.
Yeah, so everything was served with proper silverware, and you don't come to the table, on like disheveled.
We'll take out the nice china when we have some special occasion, which you never do.
That's right. But you know what else she had, which actually is kind of cool, because I'd never seen it. Sometimes I see it in a fancy restaurant. So she had this feather from a goose, which was used to sweep the crumbs off the tablecloth.
You see that at the restaurant, so they come and get all the crumbs off.
And that was my job as a kid. I had to there was a special place for this feather, and then, but I'm just but just that attention to detail and surrounding herself with beauty and creating the beauty in the home.
You kept that.
Yes,
sure.
I know. It's like it stayed with me, and it connects me generationally, right? It's like a little piece of my grandmother is like even these flowers, the hydrangeas were her favorite flowers, and I love them too.
It's funny that whole cookbook idea, because last
I
December,
actually want to publish it. I mean, if I get around.
Last December, probably November-ish or something, my youngest sister was talking to my mom about recipes or something, and they started to put this idea together. Like, she's like, "Oh, my mom just started to light up because of memories and capturing all that." And they actually put a cookbook together and they printed it online somewhere.
Yeah,
Grandma's cookbook.
Yeah,
and it has all the stuff in there from, that she gathered, and all the same recipes she keeps using all the time.
Right.
That we know about.
Yeah.
And all the kids got their own copy, and all the grandkids got their own
that's
copy.
Amazing.
And it's like, because generations, you got to capture that, because at some point it's going to get lost.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
And she also did a whole book on genealogy. I mean, everyone's doing that now, like online tools, but she did the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
she made phone calls and like tracked it all down. And she put it all into a book as well. So.
I gotta tell you that I really love in America how people are very interested in their background. Like people here much more than in Europe or
because we're all a melting pot here.
I know, but
I mean, over there they're probably just like great down the street,
right,
or they live in the same house.
Well, also people went through like different changes of systems, so sometimes relatives disappeared or relatives were, sent away, and you lost communication with them. These things also did happen, and records were destroyed. But I just want to say, like, I'm so impressed because people are so interested here, and they create these they work on their family tree and with pictures. Yeah. It's so cool. So I actually was inspired by that
trend recently, like the last 5 or 10 years, maybe with some of the other tools that are available.
Yeah, and I was bugging my dad, who lives in Ukraine, about pictures, and I wanted to, go through that. So in that respect, so I didn't even know this, but so I started talking to my father, and I'm like, I want to see pictures. I remember that. What about our relatives? Well, my grandfather, his dad, was a writer. But what I didn't know is that my grandfather, actually wrote a diary, which my dad, since now, is it's in the process of being published. So he wrote a diary depicting his life. And so I was able to read, I read it.
So your grandfather?
My grandfather gave these amazing illustrative stories of his parents, of the people on, of his grandparents. Like this, his grandfather was visiting, and he even said like he looked like Kaiser because he had these big mustaches, and and so just reading that, I was like, this is my line. Like it's more than, I'm so lucky because it's more than just finding facts. It's like a voice from the past. He's telling you, because the world he lived in is gone. It's
it's so interesting because even like when my dad was sick, what was it? There's an author, I can't remember his name now, Brendan. I'll put it in the link on the but
okay.
But his dad was sick because he's published several books and stuff. His dad was sick, and he actually sat down with him, interviewed his dad before he passed.
Yeah.
And that was actually what triggered me to have like some of these thoughts where my dad had lung cancer, and we knew his time was limited, so that was the blessing, right? But so we were like, well, I would like to capture some of this too. So I tried to. I did. It's kind of hard to like. You want to put all the stuff away. Sometimes you just be in the moment.
Right.
So I did that a lot, but I also kind of tried to get my camera out, or I'll hit record, and I had conversations a little bit. So I have some of that too.
Oh, that's amazing. I think that's so
I have
great.
now, so it's kind of cool.
Absolutely, I love it.
There's times you can't get back, so that's
and actually with my father, when I started harassing him literally about the pictures, he was like, "Why do you want to know? Like, why? Why do you want to know?"
But even back then, the pictures were all like printed off, and they were in the yellow.
Yeah, they were in albums.
And then now we just have them all like 100,000 of them on our phone that we don't print or.
Yeah.
So.
But anyway, so that forced him to work with the diary. His grandpa had handwritten it. So Dad had to type it, edit it, prepare it for publishing. I mean, that was a lot of work. So my father, I think that project was really great for him because he started with why even bother?
It can be very therapeutic.
Yes, and then getting really so we now exchange all these pictures. He sometimes sends me more pictures that he finds, and we talk about it. It's just so cool. I just think it's important. It's just important.
We're really kind of touching on the trend here that I seem to be seeing or hearing over the last few years, maybe, but especially now that we're COVID kind of stuff, is the anxiety and just all the hustle bustle, and but I think we all need to slow down, and all these things that I think people need more of. That is really looking at their heritage and their background and appreciating all those smaller things.
I think slowing down is okay. And
I think it's threatening too.
Well, yeah, because you fill your day with nonsense. I mean, no, I'm not talking about.
No, but it is. I'm busy and that whole thing. So
busy going out. And actually, my husband and I just found out, for ourselves, that our kids are grown, so they're no longer in the house, so we weren't really cooking dinners for two of us. Like, why? So we'd go out,
right.
And that was of course done. So we actually discovered this is kind of interesting and fun. Like this, we are back to cooking from scratch.
Yeah.
And spending time together, preparing a meal, and I think there's something about it.
So, that's the thing, is you can look at all this as this sucks and this is all these other things, but if you start to look at the other side, there's been a lot of positive things because it's forcing us to slow down and to reevaluate. I think as we're starting to come out of this, more people are starting to really hang on to a couple of those things that they were surprised they learned maybe along the way.
Right. I'm all okay with everything. Just bring back the travel. Everything else can just stay.
I'm the same. I just love travel.
Me too. I just, to me, it's like, it feeds everything, and I've been traveling a lot during my life.
Right.
Even when in my 20s, when I started just right after college, I was working for USAID, and I got to travel all over the world. Went to the Philippines, Mexico, Jamaica, Guatemala, other places, and every place you go to inspires you in some ways. And interestingly, every place I went, even in my 20s, right, I did not have my jewelry company. In fact, I did not even have that idea, but I always bought jewelry everywhere I went. So In the Philippines, I was like
it
busy buying
it was all
pearls.
part of you a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. It's like funny. You look at it, and it's like there is definitely a theme weaving through my life.
That's another interesting point. It's like, a lot of times we're trying to find something, like find our purpose or all this, but we don't. It's usually right in front of us.
Yes, right.
Like you're buying all this jewelry, and at some point you're like, maybe I should do something with this.
Yep, exactly.
Because before, you were many years in law.
Yeah, right. Yes.
So when I think of someone that's a lawyer, I think jewelry.
No,
it's like it's kind of like IT and fashion. I'm in IT, and I do all kinds of stuff. So.
Well, and truly, so I was probably was like 2006, somewhere around that time, and I took my mom to Paris for her 60th birthday party. I mean, not party, but it's like as a gift.
60th or trip.
Trip, yes, celebration trip. And we were there in Paris, going to boutiques and having a great time. My cousin also came, my mom's niece, and we went into YSL boutique that had accessories, so bags and jewelry, and my mom bought us 3 rings as a commemorative thing about the trip. So I came back to Minnesota, and I went to court. Well, I had to go to court, and I had that ring on, and somebody noticed, and they said, "Wow, this is so cool." And I said, one day I'll be bringing that back here. Like I said, like I'll be bringing that jewelry here. Like, I don't know why I even said that, because it was not anything that I really planned, but I think I started thinking about it. But then of course it took another. It was just
seated there.
Yes, it's like.
But this also allows you, like having this. Ideally, for me, it's like I want to be able to travel and integrate it with some type of business model or whatever. So I'm actually experiencing some new part of the world, but it's part of another. I don't have to take a week off of vacation or something like that. I just want to have it integrated into my lifestyle. And that's what you've been able to do.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
And then before, like when you're traveling a lot, is there one part of the world that you were surprised that maybe you thought it was one way, and you're like, or were they all unique in their own way?
I don't know.
No?
Spain, maybe. I wasn't.
Really?
Yeah, not that I didn't think Spain was cool, but I think I was surprised in some ways in a very good way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just did not. It's different. Spain is so different. Other thing,
but it's also like from one part of the country to another part.
Well, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Like U.S. So you could be in
one
part of like it's like, where am I?
Well, a couple of years ago we went to Basque country, so northern Spain, and that's pretty amazing. San Sebastian, and like I would go there back anytime.
There's so many spots that I have on my list.
Yeah.
South Africa is on there.
Oh, sure.
I've never been to Paris.
Oh my God, you have to go.
And I've only been to Italy and then the Middle East, and then I'm through Amsterdam.
Nice.
But I was in Costa Rica, that kind of stuff too.
That was just travel, not work. Was it work related?
No, I'm talking about travel at all. Like everywhere I've actually stepped foot.
Yeah, cool.
But the Italy one was a work trip, so that was awful. I'm kidding, of course, but sometimes people can't pick up on my sarcasm.
Well,
that was so. I mean, man, because
So where in Italy did you go?
Rome.
Oh, okay.
So this was my IT job in the past. And the client was in Rome, and I stayed with them. It was a bunch of priests, and I grew up Catholic. And I'm like, this was awesome.
Oh.
So I got to see a different perspective of all these priests too, and they're from all over the world. A lot of them are retired, and Catholics like to drink a lot. So every corner of the place is like, there's liquor over here, alcohol over here, there's bourbon.
Yeah.
But it was like such a crazy experience that it's hard to even grasp that.
Sure.
And then just being able to sit. And it was about 2:00 in the afternoon, and they'd be like, well, I got to go play soccer. So then I went touring, but I'll have to do that again.
Yes, you should.
Yeah. What else do we have to cover on this? I love the topics that fashion
that keep popping up.
And then, you mentioned already the law. What is there any background with the law piece that really helps you now, or is it just
now?
Like,
I thought you meant background why I was doing law.
Legal, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, but funny things. Of course, I've done things in business that, as an attorney, I would tell my client never to do. Right, like started projects without signing a contract, and whoop-de-doo, like all of a sudden things are not going the way things are not in the way that I thought they were going to go. So you kind of backpedal, but still, of course, it helps me. I mean, I understand, the business structure and maybe risk management, things like that. I try not to bring too much law into my life.
Well, yeah, and everyone's journey is so different because we think we kind of have a pretty good idea. I mean, probably years ago you wouldn't have thought you'd be sitting here with doing this, or even just podcast or video.
Right.
A year ago you didn't really do any of it, right? You probably weren't looking forward to it.
A year ago, your friend Jennifer, actually, thank God for her, because she said, you need to get out there. And I'm like, why?
I am. I'm in my kitchen.
Right.
No.
It's like, why?
Ouch.
Pushed me to Instagram, pushed me in front of the camera, and I think it's a good thing because, in this day and age...
Gotta get outside your comfort zone.
Well, in this day and age, this is our medium, and that's how we connect to people, and good or bad, social media and virtual world is here to stay, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We just connect on a different level.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think the thing is just to constantly push yourself, but not have to have these crazy goals where you're always grinding and burning the midnight oil. And
right.
Not ever really enjoying things because there's, back to that whole rat race. People get stuck in that.
Right. Well, I make it a point at this point of my life not to get involved in a rat race or unhealthy competitions and things like that stress you out and actually hurt you. Not they don't they even make you less creative. So but it's very difficult, and especially with social media when we start watching other people and they're like, oh, they're doing it better than me. Oh, shucks, and then you feel small. But you have to you have to make an effort to just not. First of all, don't look at stuff.
Well,
and second of all,
I thought you were supposed to get out there. So
if you look at stuff, don't sit there checking your competitors and getting all freaked out about.
Your biggest competition is in the mirror a lot of times.
Yeah, right, exactly. So just get out there because everybody is unique.
And there's enough to go around because people are thinking there's going to be some lack mentality. Oh, that guy across the street is going to take all my business. Just focus on your own thing.
Right. Well, and women in particular are also very critical of oh, I'm going to say the wrong thing, or what if everyone hates it? And, and it's you start thinking, projecting that stuff, and it's people don't like it, they'll turn it off.
Well, and then all the stories in your head, you start to, and you go back to something that happened in the past. Yeah. You've got to be in the now.
Absolutely, and that's.
But you do seem to be living the, kind of authentic, what you want to do, and you're not feeling like you're doing things you're supposed to, and no regrets. That's kind of what I get
regrets.
that feeling from you.
Oh my God, so no regrets. It took me forever to let go of my legal practice. I mean,
that was hard. Yeah.
Good 6 years where I was ready to go and was hanging on, and and then it's neither bad nor good. It's just once I let go and doing literally what I love to do with where my heart is, it's just it's so important, and I wish people understood that about themselves. I tell my kids too, we all want our kids to go to a really good college and get really good jobs, with big money, but at some point, if you don't do what you love, it's going to backfire, and you're not gonna reach the heights that you think you will. And so,
especially if you're 3 years into some college or something, some degree that you don't really like, but you're kind of doing it because you think you should.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you maybe make the decision not to. Then you got 3 years of time plus all the money, especially even if you're in a career that you don't like.
Right.
And you did all the schooling and the career and everything, you're 10 years into it. And you're like, no, I can't really go back now.
Well, right.
And it just keeps culminating.
Well, it keeps feeding on itself, yeah.
So that's the key. Is I agree with that. Is I really try to message this with my daughters, is that really explore and try new things and see what you like. And if it's something that sounds dumb, maybe there's usually something to it. If you follow down the path.
But you know, I
You might
wouldn't.
find it what works.
But you know what? I wouldn't be here today the way I am if I didn't have all these other experiences in my life. I truly believe that, because I could have like gone to college, for example, and done an art degree and then started that. I probably would be a different person, not
Right.
good or bad, just
Right.
not. So I think all of the experiences we do have, they all lead to something.
And that's why you have to embrace them, thinking
Yes.
like, well, I shouldn't have done that. Everything I've done,
Yeah.
I think all led me to where I am too.
Yes.
Is that I don't think anything should really change. That's just my journey.
Right, exactly.
And who knows where it's going to go. I have a pretty good idea. I
Yeah,
think I know where
right.
it's, but I might know 2 steps.
Yeah.
But not,
No, I like surprises.
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
Well, this is awesome. This is awesome. Should
No,
we
I'm-
cheers?
Yes,
The
I am
little,
a little
well, yours is
espresso
cold.
cups.
No, mine's gone. But cheers.
Cheers.
Now follow along. I'll post this episode on the website, and I'll kind of like 17 different social media platforms,
17.
and you'll have it on yours as well. But I'm kidding, sarcasm. See, when I look at the camera again, I just love the lighting. I'm just like
The
addicted
lighting
to
is
lighting.
amazing. I know, the lighting is amazing.
But
And
the
the
best
little
places,
wind.
exactly. It's a nice cool breeze. It's not super hot.
Yeah.
The best place is probably Instagram for you right now.
Yes. Well, Instagram and Facebook.
And
You
Facebook.
know, Facebook is also good. I keep thinking that I need to start a YouTube, but one thing at a time.
Building blocks.
One
Building
thing at a time.
blocks.
Yeah.
We'll get there, right?
Yes, for sure.
But yeah, start Milana underscore. I'll
Underscore.
put it in the
Milana
video and all
underscore
this.
Stile. Also, go to my website, www.milanastile.com, because I do post videos there as well. I do have 3 blog entries. I am working on it. But there is
It's all a
there
process,
is
and
some
you're enjoying the
information-
process.
there's some information there, but like, yeah, I try to. So there's a well, the main thing for the website is that you can book a virtual appointment
Yeah.
with me. So if you're not in town or you don't want to go anywhere because of COVID,
You
I
could
totally
be in
understand.
Paris.
We can do virtual. You know, I do FaceTime shopping experiences. Actually, it's been great with people.
And do you have pictures of your studio and stuff on there too? Or-
I actually have that virtual tour with it.
Oh yeah.
So you can see the entire process and what's happening here and what it looks like, and
Awesome.
yeah,
Get yourself scheduled with an appointment. Grab yourself some champagne.
That's right.
very important.
That's right.
Well, this is fun. Make sure to follow along on Milana's social media platforms as well. Until the next episode of the Storytellers Podcast.